In today's episode of HR Visionaries, we talk to Hayley from Ebiquity. We talk about how vulnerability can be your secret strength. Stay tuned. Welcome to HR Visionaries, where we unlock the secrets of modern HR. I'm Benjamin, your host. Join us as we shed light on today's HR universe with HR leaders and innovators from across the globe. Whether you're an HR pro, a business leader, or just curious about the future of work, this is your shortcut to the forefront of HR innovation. Brought to you by Hewett, the AI talent attraction platform. Welcome to the latest episode of HR Visionaries. I'm looking forward to my guest today, Hayley. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Of course, it's really good to be here.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself in a few sentences? Who are you?
Of course. So I am currently the global head of talent acquisition at Ebiquity, which means I'm responsible for everything talent acquisition related across our 21 countries around the globe.
Sounds super interesting. I'm super excited to talk to you about how to coordinate those coordinate recruiting activities in 21 countries. Can you tell us a bit about why are you a leader in the HR space? Is it something that came naturally to you?
Sure. So I actually didn't come through a traditional HR background. I started my career running bars.
No way.
So completely different in hospitality. And somebody said to me, when I was running a big bar in central London, they said, I think you'd be really good in recruitment. You're a natural salesperson, so I think you should go to recruitment. So then I was looking to get out of that life anyway and get into a regular corporate job. So moved into agency recruitment. Did that for a good 4 or 5 years, and then decided actually I like the recruitment part, but I'm missing I'm really missing getting under the skin of an organization, being part of an organization rather than just working for other companies. So I decided to move in-house. I actually moved to an RPO and worked in a big bank for 5 years, which I loved, but then realized that the huge bank wasn't for me. I liked a smaller company, so then moved to a smaller leadership role in recruitment in international education, and then decided I wanted to take the step up. I was ready for the step up. My manager at the time had been really good at developing me, and I realized that leading is what I wanted to do. So then I was fortunate enough to secure this role in a new sector. I'd worked internationally before, but not across 21 countries. So now I'm here leading everything TA, and really getting that good mix of strategy and operations.
Running a bar sounds super exciting, so I have to go back to that for a moment.
Hard work.
I imagine it must be really hard work. So working those hours where other people enjoy their free time. What did you learn there that is now valuable to you?
Oh, goodness. So much. I learned so much about myself. I was 23 and I was running a central London bar. So there was a lot I learned about the perception of who I am versus what I'm capable of. And that people will make pre-made judgments, and that it's my responsibility to show them who I am and what I can do. I also had a crash course in people management there, because I was managing a team of 20. A lot of people, given that it was central London, were here to learn English and had no real interest in staying long term or learning or developing. They just wanted money. So how to motivate teams when you're in that kind of situation, and also how to manage the general public, how to build relationships with people, and how to have difficult conversations when you meet people. Sometimes when people weren't particularly sober, which was difficult, but also to know when I could have those conversations or when I needed help and support to do that. So it was a huge amount of learning from that job.
I can't stop wondering whether we perhaps met there when I was in London working there. You just mentioned, well, at the age of 23, you managed 20 people, and perhaps to put that on a more abstract level, it doesn't need to be a bar where you work with people with very different levels of motivation. However, you as a
Absolutely.
leader have to create one team with very different personalities, and with perhaps also age gaps. How do you approach this best?
Yeah, I was the youngest of that team. So everybody was older than me, which I think sometimes made it hard, but also made me realize from a young age, it doesn't matter how old people are. It doesn't matter. What matters is the position you're in, and that you are worthy of that position, and therefore you gain respect. So I think that was a really great thing for me to learn early on, because actually, if people respect you, they're more likely to follow what you're trying to get them to do. They're more likely to be engaged and motivated. You don't need to be everybody's friend. It's just about ensuring that the team have respect for you, and that you have respect for them and what their value is as well.
How do you gain that respect?
Oh, what a question. I think leading by example is huge in that kind of atmosphere, but also very much echoes, in any role I've been in.
Okay.
And I think it's that leading rather than managing. So you're not just telling people what to do, you're listening to them. You are ensuring that you are the kind of person that they buy into. You're building those relationships. You're finding out what makes them tick. And even though in that, that situation, they weren't there for a career, it was equally as important to understand what they wanted out of that role as it is now for my team, who are building careers and do want to develop long term. And I think that's something that's also helped me through my entire career, is having a growth mindset, knowing that I don't always have the answers. I'm not always going to have the answers, but I always want to learn and develop. And I've been really lucky, especially my last two roles, to work for leaders who understand that and keep challenging me and keep developing me.
This growth mindset you just mentioned, I think it's a super important point, because for many leaders, I think in particular inexperienced leaders, many of them fear, okay, if I show vulnerability, if I communicate to the team, well, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I may appear weak, and I may appear as not leadership worthy. I do think it's actually the very opposite, but I think with many people there is this fear. How can you overcome this fear, showing vulnerability? Being a 23-year-old in a pub, leading a team of 20 people, being an HR leader, leading a team of people there. How do you make that possible?
So I think that I've learned absolutely in my 30s. I didn't quite understand this in my 20s, but in my 30s, I've realized that your vulnerabilities can be your superpower, because
okay, do we have a title for the podcast?
But I think that it's so important to say, I don't know. It's that no one's ever going to get angry with you if you say, look, I don't know, but I will find out. Or I don't know, but I am happy to work through this together and we can find a solution. I think I'm very solutions based as a person, and therefore I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to know how to find them out. And I think that it does take maturity and a while to you almost need to be in a certain level of position to realize it's okay not to have all the answers, because I feel that you spend so long in your career trying to prove yourself. And I feel that being empowered at a certain level really helps you become vulnerable. I also think that being in the time that we are now, rather than when I started my career in the early 2000s, means that people are slightly more open to vulnerabilities. And it makes me really excited that I get to be a leader at this point in time rather than 20 years ago, although I also think I could have affected some change 20 years ago, but still I think that it's really exciting that I get to be a person and get to be vulnerable as a leader.
Do you think leading by example? Okay, that's very much a suggestion, I guess. I think in general, leading by example, also showing, okay, well, I can show vulnerability. Therefore, the next level of management can show vulnerability. That's I think it's pretty strong, actually.
Absolutely, and I do it with my team all the time. Something I'm very very strong with my team is work-life balance, because in my team we're all millennials. Therefore, we will literally work until we're exhausted and burnt out if no one stops us. So I, in that respect, have to lead by example there as well. We all have things going on outside of work, whether that's children or whatever it is, and therefore I need my team to understand that we aren't living to work, we're working to live, and that you can achieve what you need to achieve in your working hours. And yes, as a global team, we have to flex our working hours sometimes, but that means we get to take time back or balance it. And I think that's really important.
Well, telling your team to work less also requires lots of, a very mature view of leadership, right?
Absolutely. And I think that this is where I'm very lucky in my last 2 roles to have worked for leaders who really understand that. And I think that I'm also lucky that I have people on my team that I can trust. So the newest member of my team, I actually worked with in a previous job for 5 years and have rehired him here. Which really helps because I know his working style, he knows my working style. We were colleagues then, and now I'm his manager, but it's meant that I've known from the beginning I can trust him. I know he can do the job. There's obviously things he needs to learn, which I'm there to support with, but I think that's really helped. And with my other team members, I think that they've never given me a reason not to trust them. I know they can deliver. And as long as we keep talking when there are struggles, which there are going to be, that's just natural, that's life, then we can have that trust to continue to make sure that we're not burning out.
I think in particular, trust is super important when you work with so many jurisdictions, when you work with so many different kind of talents, so with very different backgrounds, probably. Can you talk us a bit through your approach managing the talent acquisition in 21 countries?
Yeah, so it's a challenge. That's for sure, especially in the further time zone. So Australia is obviously our biggest challenge. So my team are all based on this side of the world. So here in the UK and also in Spain. So we all have challenges because our remit spans from Australia through to the US and Guatemala. So the time zones are quite vast. So it's a challenge both time zone wise and also culturally.
Yep.
And therefore I try and I've strategically placed my team to deal with specific time zones and cultures. So with the one in Spain manages all of our Spanish speaking countries, so all of Latin America and Spain, but also a little bit of work in one of our hiring managers in Singapore, even though he recruits in Guatemala. It's a lot, but I'm strategic there with what she does, and then the rest of us we try and split it so nobody is working on APAC and the US at the same time, because it's a lot. Obviously, it doesn't always happen, but we try. Culturally, it's really interesting, and I think we learn every day. about different cultures. I mean, obviously, our biggest challenge as a country is China because of the data restrictions, and actually just for us being outside of China, recruiting in there is incredibly difficult. And we have people leads, which is our version of an HR business partner in all of the regions. So they are the local experts, and we really rely on them, and we really collaborate closely with them for support as well, because we can't be everywhere at once. We try, but we can't be.
I would like to talk more about the issue of, well, coherent culture. Given, so we just spent from Australia to Guatemala, where you have like very different cultures, very different income levels, obviously, very different background of people. I must say, I always found it quite interesting working in a company that had so many globally so many locations. So to make sure that everyone is aligned.
Yeah.
How do you get that done?
So Ebiquity's actually been on a really interesting journey since I joined. A couple of months after I joined, they launched a global transformation, because the company has grown through acquisition over the last 20 or so years, which is how it's ended up in so many countries. So the last just over a year, we've been running a global transformation program, which is there to bring everybody, make everyone consistent, to make sure that we aren't duplicating work, that everyone's doing the work the same, but also that our culture and our values are echoed around the world, and that everybody is working consistently in that respect as well. And I think that we are always going to have challenges with cultural differences, but as a global company, everybody is quite clear on what our values are and where we stand and what we're there to do. And I think that if you have those basics right, the rest can be built on. And it's still a work in progress, absolutely. We're only just over a year into a transformation. It's a work in progress. But compared to how it was when I started, we had no global recruitment process when we started. I had to do all of that. So it's a completely different company to when I started. And I think it's absolutely bringing the globe closer together.
I also like to think about the issue of cultural differences as incredibly enriching, right? So you have so many different celebrations and so many different super interesting things to talk about, and to level everyone up, and to focus on the cool things everywhere.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. I mean, it brings its own challenges. So obviously most of the world is kind of closed down at the end of December, but then obviously you have Chinese New Year a month after that, so then that's another 2 weeks in China gone, and then there are simple things. For example, that the US has already gone into daylight savings,
indeed,
and we haven't. Our clocks don't change.
It's screwed up my entire calendar.
Yeah, exactly. So now I always say that organizing interviews in different time zones is the most challenging part of my job, especially when the two people are in different time zones. So now adding that into the mix, it's just my brain has almost exploded this week.
That's lovely. How do you make sure that there is a consistent message that is communicated by all of your team members to candidate or potential candidates from Australia to Guatemala?
So this again is a work in progress. So as I mentioned, when I came in, there was no global recruitment process. So I spent the last 18 months establishing that. The culmination of that was we've just launched a new global ATS, which is applicant tracking system, and it's the first one we've ever had. So this is really helped us with having our first global internal job board, for internal mobility and internal promotions, because with a global transformation, it means we're more location agnostic with our roles, so people get more opportunities. So from an internal candidate perspective, that's been great. From an external candidate perspective, it now means that we have a career site that we can manage easier. It means that it comes in multiple languages, so people can view in their local language. So it means that we are controlling the messages people get, but that they can understand them wherever they are. And it also means that we now have one communication tool that we use globally, except for China. But it means that all hiring managers are communicating on candidates through this system, so we have visibility of everything. So it's really helpful. And the other thing we've implemented that I think has been really helpful is an AI interview note taker, because it now means my team can do spot checks on interviews to make sure that the messaging is consistent to different candidates in different locations. But it also gives the hiring managers insight on their interview technique and how they're interviewing, to make sure that they are interviewing well. So technology has really helped, really helped. And I'm lucky to work for a company that really values technology. And I think that data, which we've never had before in recruitment, and technology is really going to support us in ensuring that we keep our messages consistent moving forward.
I would also like to talk about technology as being part of the solution. Given you already talked about how much one ATS, how much in interviewing streamlining has helped you. What do you think about so looking ahead? What will be challenges going forward, and how can technology then provide a solution for that?
Specifically in talent acquisition?
Indeed.
Well, I think AI is absolutely a challenge for everyone at the moment. But in talent acquisition, we're finding a lot of low quality candidate applications that are obviously being created by AI, or CVs that have been written by AI and not very well. And I think for my team, at the moment, it's very obvious, but I think it will become more sophisticated. So I think there'll be a challenge in making sure that people really match up to what their CV says, and ensuring that we can really test that. So I think on a people level, that's a challenge. But technology, I think, will keep growing. The AI will become more sophisticated, and it will be introduced in different areas that we haven't even thought of yet. And as long as we're really careful with the AI and not using AI to make judgments, I think that's where it gets dangerous. And I think that we should continue to use the AI and the data, because Ebiquity is all about data-driven solutions. That's what we do, and I think that I very much want to echo that in my team and what we're doing. And now that we have the technology, and hopefully we'll continue to develop that technology, that we are actually now in a position where we can really build data-driven solutions.
What would be a question you would like to ask a future guest of HR Visionaries?
Oh my goodness. For me, at the moment, one of my biggest challenges is workforce planning, and ensuring that that's done properly on a global level. So how do we improve workforce planning across a multitude of countries and a multitude of specialisms? I think is, for me, it's a little bit off piece from where the rest of our conversation, but I think that for me, that's one of our challenges. And as we're strategically offshoring certain delivery pieces to hubs in cheaper countries, how do we ensure that workforce planning is accurate?
It's a super interesting question. Hayley, as a last question I have for you, can you tell us a bit about you as an organization? So what do you guys actually do that you are required in at least 21 countries?
Yeah. So Ebiquity is the world leader in media investment analysis. So if you're in the media sector, then you'll probably know of us. If you're not, then you probably never heard of us. But what that means is that Ebiquity work with brand owners to deliver data-driven solutions, driving efficiency from their media spend, eliminating waste and creating value. We have 4 different areas that we cover. So media management, media performance, marketing effectiveness, and contract compliance. And what makes Ebiquity different is we are completely independent. We don't have a stake in the market anywhere. We're not a TV channel or agency, which means that we can provide unbiased advice and solutions to brands across the world. So why we're in 21 countries, we have a mix of the global clients. We work with the 75 of the top 100 advertisers in the world. We also have local clients as well in our different countries and regions, which is why we have a presence in so many locations.
Cool. Hayley, thank you so much for your time. It was lovely talking to you. It was super interesting what you said about, in particular, vulnerability as your superpower. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me.
And thanks you guys for listening in, and see you next time.